37-year-old Jennifer Velasquez worked at the airport in Boston for 7 years and managed to provide for 3 children on her own. The woman spent a lot of her time at work, and the salary allowed her to feel comfortable and stable. However, the coronavirus had forced many employers to cut jobs, and as you might have guessed, this also affected Jennifer. On that fateful day, she was sure that the layoffs wouldn't affect her position, because the woman had excellent performance and all her colleagues knew about her difficult situation. So the news of her dismissal hit her like a bolt from the blue. It was a real shock for the family. Thus, one day, the woman became unemployed. The savings she had would be enough for a couple of months, but she had to set it aside to pay rent, as well as for her kids' school and tutors, things she couldn't just give up. Thus, the woman tried to cut the family's expenses, all the while not letting her kids know how bad their situation was. She did her best to provide them with everything they needed. One day, Jennifer learned about state benefits that she was eligible for. She was supposed to get it on her bank account. With that in mind, she headed to the nearest supermarket to get groceries for the week. However, she was in for an unfortunate surprise. When Jennifer tried to pay for her purchases, her card was declined because there were insufficient funds in her account. The state benefits probably hadn't gone through yet, and she didn't have enough of her own money to pay for the food. That was the last straw for the woman, who was desperately trying to provide for her family. It seemed that she had no more fight left in her. Even the strongest people can have a moment of weakness, and stepping away from the checkout, Jennifer sat on the sidewalk and burst into tears from all the problems that had befell her lately. Loss of stable income, life on the brink of survival, children who have to witness it all. Her card being declined was simply the breaking point for the unfortunate woman. And we probably wouldn't have gotten to know her story if it weren't for what happened next. At that very moment, police officer Ben Bagheero, who had just finished his shift, was passing by the supermarket. The man immediately noticed the woman who was sitting in tears by an empty cart in the parking lot. He decided to stop and watch her for a moment because he could feel that something was wrong. People passed by ignoring the poor woman. The cars came and went, and she still sat there in tears, and it seemed that the entire world had ceased to exist to her. Having watched the woman for a bit, Ben realized that she wasn't homeless and that she was probably facing some serious problems, and his heart couldn't just let it be. Thus, a few minutes later, he decided to come up to her and find out what was wrong. "Hi, can I help you?" the man said in a quiet voice, so as to not frighten the stranger. The woman didn't answer at first, lowering her eyes in shame. But Ben knew perfectly well that he couldn't just leave her there alone. He asked the same question again. "Is there anything I can help you with? It's okay, you can tell me what's wrong." Ben seemed very calm and confident, so Jennifer calmed down a bit and shared her unfortunate story with the man. "My job was the only source of income for our family, but because of the lockdown, I was just laid off, and now I can't provide for my 3 children. I'm ashamed to admit it, but there is literally no money left, even though we used to be fine before. I came to the store hoping to buy some food, but today my children will have to go without dinner," Jennifer admitted, barely holding back her tears. I don't think I have to tell you that not everyone in this situation would have done what Officer Ben did. He believed the stranger and said, "You know what? Come with me. We will go in and grab some things." Of course, these words touched Jennifer so much, but she wasn't used to being a burden, especially to people she didn't know. However, Ben objected, saying that it was no big deal, and that people should always help out those in need. Thus, the two of them went into the store together. Jennifer picked out the things she needed. However, the officer noticed that the amount of food Jennifer got was definitely not enough for a family of 4, so he packed a full cart of groceries of his own choosing, after which he paid for it all at the checkout. The purchase amounted to as much as $225, but Ben didn't hesitate for a second before paying for the stranger, saying that he chose to become a police officer specially for this reason, to help people. After such an unusual act of kindness, Jennifer really wanted to give her savior a hug, but refrained due to the social distancing recommendations during the pandemic. She still couldn't believe that a stranger was capable of being so kind, but Ben decided not to stop at that. He took the woman's phone number, after which he said that he would come and visit them in a few days. The happy mother went home, still having a hard time believing what had just happened. And that's understandable. We all know what kind of world we're living in. Jennifer soon decided to find a way to thank the compassionate officer. A week later, she invited Ben to a family dinner. And even though the police officer rejected her offer because of his heavy workload, he did visit the family a little later. Thus, Ben started coming over to see Jennifer and her kids. It continued until Jennifer got her job back and could provide for her family again. Sometime later, journalists got wind of the story and made a special report about the kind police officer. Meanwhile, Ben behaved like a real man and refused to admit that there was anything heroic to his actions. Since then, Ben and Jennifer had become friends. While this wonderful story once again proves that there are still many kind and helpful people out in this world, which gives us hope for the best. Let's hope that every person in trouble gets to meet someone willing to help them out without hesitation and not expecting anything in return. Friends, how do you feel about what Officer Ben did? What would you have done in his place? Be sure to let us know in the comments. And that's all for today. Rate the video if you liked it, and see you soon. Bye.